Talk to me like I'm a fifth grader and make it make sense to us dentists out there.
So let's calculate based on a 37% or 35% tax. You save over $150,000 in taxes that you would have had to pay the government.
Welcome back to another episode of My Dental Playbook. I'm your co-host, Gary Bird. Along with my friend, Dr. Blake Hamblin, we're going to be talking about if dentists should rent or own their main property. Dr. Blake's going to dive into what he did and how it worked out for him. He has a beautiful building, as well as we have Matt Sanderson, the co-founder and CEO of Strike. He helped Dr. Blake with his current building, and he's going to be breaking down some different strategies around taxes. If you're spending too much money on taxes, which I think we all are, this is definitely the episode for you. Also, at the end of the show, I have a $3,000 credit for you to use towards marketing if you're thinking about growing your practice. Stay tuned. All right, we are live with Matt. Today I'm excited because he's the owner of Strike. And at the end of the show, if you're paying too much in taxes, everybody's paying too much in their taxes if you're listening to this, he has a app that helps you with that down below. We'll talk about it a little bit more later in the show, and you can use it for free. And it is awesome if you want to save on taxes. So if you're a successful dentist, you want to save on taxes, that's going to be huge. But today's show, we're going to be diving into, should dentists rent or own? So Matt, what are your thoughts? Like, I know it's a blanket statement, and I know you're probably going to start, well, with it depends, like everything else, you know, the devil's in the details, but should dentists rent or own their property? We got a goal to get to 10,000 subscribers, and 85% of you are not subscribed to the channel yet. So make it happen. Subscribe. Tell them.
Subscribe.
Good job. Make it happen.
So first of all, thanks for having me on here. Excited to be on here with you guys. Now, let me take that question and turn it to Blake Hamblin. So I'm a real estate broker and work directly with Dr. Blake over here, or Dr. Hamblin. I don't know what you guys call him now. I'll call him Dr. Blake. Blake. Hey, I'll call him Dr. Blake. So when we were working through the process, you started out leasing a practice, mostly because you acquired, or you started working with the guy, then you acquired the practice. And so you took on a lease. So you didn't really have a choice. But now you have bought your own building. So when you were starting out, would you have leased or bought, and why?
Great question. I think starting out leasing makes a ton of sense just because you don't have the capital and the ability to go do that. So especially if you're going to do a startup or something of that sort, you have other things that would be better to spend your money on than real estate. I think spending money on marketing with Gary or having dental chairs to serve patients, that seems like a pretty good idea. I just think there's so much more that you need to get your business going than it is to just buy real estate right out the gate. Can you do it? Absolutely. It would probably be a little bit scary for me to do something like that, not knowing, is this business even going to be successful? But that would be how I'd answer that question.
Yeah. And honestly, in my opinion, I totally agree. Like when you're first starting out, you have to prove that you can even just do it and actually be cash flow positive and grow the business. So if you're going to take on, a lot of debt, build the building, all that stuff, or just take over a building, that's a lot of risk. So in my opinion, I think it's better off starting out leasing in the beginning. But here's the key. What I noticed about you, Blake, is you were willing to bet on yourself. And if you bet on yourself, you could win. And so when the moment you knew, and I remember doing this and through the process, you knew you had a dream that you wanted to own your own building. And the moment you knew that like this was going to be a massive win, and when you bet on yourself, that's when it was like, all right, no more leasing. I want to own my building, and I want to own the future of this and take advantage of all these different benefits.
What's up, guys? Are you tired of hearing me and Gary talk about the same problems over and over again, but you're still trying to solve those same problems? If you're ready to actually solve them, go click the button at mydentalplaybook.com called Mastermind, and we're ready to work with you. It's $2.99 a month, no strings attached. And we're so excited to start helping you solve your problem.
Question on that though, like why did you want to own? Is it just like the American dream, white picket fence, we all want to own, you know what I mean? Or was it like, this is the best financial decision? How'd you come to that like conclusion?
A little bit of both. I think one was, living in Houston and taking over a lease from a previous dentist who got absolutely destroyed by whoever that real estate agent was. I kind of did the math and I was like, man, the type of building that I could own in Houston, if I just paid on a mortgage to own the building, I could own some ungodly awesome building versus just paying someone else's mortgage down. And so I got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, like I've got to quit burning, like lighting money on fire to pay my lease. I'd rather just own the thing. But I also think like long term, from a when I'm ready to cash cash out and be out of dentistry, owning real estate is a great way to continue to have a paycheck and be able to support your family long term. And I think some other things that I think we'll talk about later in the show, but just from a tax perspective and different things like that that are beneficial as you start to increase your income levels.
So one more thing, a leasing versus buy thing. The problem I see is like, yeah, I'm a real estate broker, so I do leasing and buying stuff all the time. You as a dentist have a vision for what your practice wants, what you want it to look like. When you find an office space or, the space that you want to go into, it's probably not going to look like the vision that you have for your company or your dental practice. So that means you're going to have to put in TI, tenant improvements, the dollars, all that stuff. Well, you can't do like a 3-year term and expect for that place to be gorgeous. So if you want your space to look amazing, you're probably going to have to do a 5 to 10 year term. In your case, you took over a lease that was a 10-year term from a prior dentist that has escalations of rent over time. And what happened is the market did what it did with COVID. And so here you're paying, hope you don't mind me sharing, top dollar rental rates, like call it $30 a square foot.
Yeah, I think I was the highest rental rate in the building.
The highest rental rate in the entire building because of this legacy 10-year lease when market's rates are $10 to $12 cheaper. That's like not thousands of dollars, that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. And so if you think about it, that's the risk you take if you do a 10-year lease. It's like, man, why don't you just go buy a building if you're going to bet on a 10-year lease? Just bet on yourself, go buy a building and own it.
Right. So Matt, what I'd like to do, and what I think would provide a lot of value to our listeners, is to kind of hear the backstory of. I know there was a lot of work that you did on the back end. Whenever I said, "Hey, I'm ready to go buy this building," number one, can you talk a little bit about how far out we started looking? So we were about 2 years out or so, and then what were some of the things that you guys did on the back end that maybe I didn't see that somebody living in Michigan could reach out to their broker and say, "Hey, can you make sure to check on these things, or these are the things I'm looking for." What do potential buyers need to know?
Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, you had a vision for this and you knew what you wanted to do. So we were able to, thankfully, within like a 2-year window, we're able to kick this process off, brainstorming, all that stuff. But usually you want to try to buy within a 12-month window or maybe even longer because any building you buy is going to probably need work. And so you're going to need to buy it. You're going to need an improvement. So I would recommend at least 12 months out to 18 months, maybe even 2 years out. So that's like the perfect window, 12 to 24 months. And then, you could get on LoopNet and kind of look around for properties as a dentist, which I think you did. But at the end of the day, it's really nice having a broker to like help because we're in connection with other brokers around the market. We run surveys. We've got more institutional tools to go find these properties. And that's most markets around the country, wherever these dentists are that are listening in. So I would say find a broker, let them leverage their resources and their network and go find these, the tools that they use every day, like CoStar, LoopNet. They will run a survey of all the options out there and start picking up the phone to call brokers to be familiar with any off-market deals. So we pulled a survey of on-market, but 50% of commercial deals happen off-market. So the only way you can find that out is if you call brokers up that have connections. Now, we pulled together a survey. There was about, 20 properties on that list. We narrowed down to, I think, 5 to 7 to actually go tour. One of the properties that you actually bought, I debated, should we even put this on here? Why? Because it needed a lot of work.
It also used to be owned by a Zone de Erotica.
It was also a Zone de Erotica. And I was like, I don't know if Blake's going to like, Dr. Blake is going to like the Zone de Erotica, but maybe I'll throw. So anyway, my team decided to leave it on there because it was like the perfect location ever. I sent it to you. I knew, I don't think you even liked that property in the very beginning, but Shelby, your wife, surprisingly was like, I love that location. I think I see the future potential. So dentists out there, or any men, talk to your wives because your wife actually might have a really great vision.
Your core demographic. Yeah. It's a core demographic.
Yeah, and looking back, Matt, I remember, especially in Houston, I think realizing mileage is always kind of different. So 2 miles in Houston is very different than 2 miles in like suburban county, right? Boise, Idaho, right? And so I remember like one of the properties, what we got down to the final two, and one of them was about 1.6 miles on paper from from our old location. And I remember thinking, man, that's not that bad at all. And then my wife and I drove it, and it was 25 minutes away.
Yeah, if you're crossing over bridges and rivers and freeways, yeah.
It would have been the absolute worst decision that we ever made to do that. And so, can you talk a little bit about when we went on those tours? What were you as an agent looking at, and that you can recall that maybe helped guide me? Because I remember going and we would look at different things, and I think one of them was an old Chase building, and you pointed out a few things that to kind of keep an eye on. Can you provide some more details there?
Yeah, I think it comes down to two things, and that's location. I mean, and you hear it all the time in real estate, like location is just so important for so many reasons, but also experience, not only for you, but you've got to think about your clients. What type of experience are they going to have? You know, how long is it going to take for them to get to your office? Or are they going to be stuck in traffic? Is it easy in and out? And so like an office user out there may not care if it's like 1 mile south and it takes a little bit of traffic. Although that experience, definitely, hurts the employees. But you, with patients coming in, like you as a businessman are thinking, hey, what is their entire experience from discovering us to driving on the entire highway to finding our building? Is it hard to find? Like, am I lost? Is it a weird U-turn to get there? Do I have to cross these bridges and all this stuff? And at the end of the day, I think that's what came down to what Shelby, your wife, was saying is like, look, I know this property needs a lot of work. I know it's a zona de erotica, but the location is impeccable. It's right off I-10, like prime time location, literally hundreds of thousands of cars going by all the time that will see Hamblin Family Dentistry up there. I mean, it's literally the visibility.
You can't put a number on that.
Yeah. And real quick too, on that, just as a side note, Dr. Blake put up signs on his lights because it's high traffic. So you're going to pay more to have a lot of cars going by. But I think the last time I looked at it, we were getting somewhere between 15 and 20 new patients from that in a given month, which is huge. Like those signs were very cheap. The rent's going to be more, the mortgage payment's going to be more, but that's huge. You can't, it's almost hard to put a number on that.
Yeah. And that's where you have to look at your marketing budget versus like the building itself, because, I know Blade, you spend a lot of money on marketing, but it's because you get the results from it. So, can continue spending that. But man, if you can, instead of juicing it way higher and just be in a better location and have equal or similar results, I mean, hands down, it's amazing to have a great location so you can still have that marketing doing well.
No, totally. And while we're on the topic of finances, can you break down, because I know I had never done this before, and I've heard you talk about it because you're in the real estate industry, but some of the tax benefits of owning your own practice. So kind of talk about it, what a cost segregation study is, and maybe talk to me. You don't have to talk to everybody else, but talk to me like I'm a fifth grader, and make it make sense to us dentists out there.
So I'm going to run some quick numbers on my phone. We'll do a little case study example here. Most listeners out there, if they were to go buy a building, how much do you think they'd spend? Like $2 million, $1 million, $3 million?
Sure, let's go to $2 million.
$2 million, okay. So $2 million, say, you're like, hey, I'm betting on myself. I'm ready to do this thing. Okay, what are the benefits that come with buying a $2 million building? Well, out of $2 million, how much do you think is land value out of this $2 million? Like 500 grand?
You tell me. You're the real estate guy.
Okay, so the total 2 million is improvements, but plus land. So let's just say minus 500 grand, take out the land. Okay, you got $1.5 million, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting, especially with the latest bill that Congress passed, where you get 100% bonus depreciation now and forever, maybe, unless unless we have a change of guard of changing their mind on it. So this is why you as a dentist owner may want to buy now, because this may not be around forever. So say you buy this $2 million building, you take the land value out, there's $1.5 million left of improvements. Okay. Now those improvements that you bought it for and everything you sink into it should be depreciated over, I think it's like 27 and a half years or something like that, or maybe 30 to 40 years, basically. Well, so you're able to get paper losses to go against your income, right? But what's cool about this accelerated depreciation is instead of this slow 30 to 40 year thing, you can pull forward a lot of that, or even most of it now, to where you can take advantage of that and apply it against your active income and basically wipe out your income or a huge majority of it. And so let's take that example, that 1.5 million. Let's take 30% of that, because I think that's about a rough number of what you could get with bonus depreciation. That's $450,000. Okay. So say you profited with your dental practice 500 grand. Now you get to take $450,000 out of that. So to the government, they only think you made $50,000 because of these paper losses. So let's calculate based on a 37% or 35%, call it 35% tax. You save over $150,000 in taxes that you would have had to pay the government. So you're going to have to pay the government that much money anyway. But because you bought this building that you now own, not lease, and because of what you did with this accelerated depreciation, you just made an extra $150,000 that you get to keep in your pocket versus giving the government. And that's the power of bonus depreciation and cost segregation.
Yeah, that's big time. Now, a few things there that you mentioned, and I learned this along the way, is the reason you took the land out of that number is because you can't depreciate the land. So the land is set, and then you depreciate what you call improvements. So think of improvements as the building, the walls, the doorknobs, the air conditioner, all the things that, the golf simulator, all the things that make up the building, right? But another thing I didn't know, and we kind of caught this towards the end of the year, but my accountant caught this, and you obviously, this isn't financial advice, but you want to check with your accountant on this. But there's something called the self rental trap. And a lot of dentists don't know this, and your accountant may be taking care of this on the back end without your awareness of it. But if you want to be able to, if you own your dental practice and then you also own the real estate that your dental practice operates out of, then what you want to do is do what's called a grouping election. So you group those two things together. So to the IRS, it is one entity. To the government and legally, they're separate. But to the IRS, they are one entity. So if you didn't do this, then technically all of those losses that you talked about would be passive losses. Now, that doesn't mean you can't take them. That just means that you have to take them against your passive income, right? Which would take a lot longer to get rid of. But if you do that grouping election, you can do it against your active income, which is what we consider our W-2 income or our doctor income. Does that make sense?
And let's just here's another scenario, and this is where it gets fun. And I've gotten to witness what you're even doing. So say you've got 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of space buy, and if you own the building and you own the dental practice, well, you get to decide what you want to charge yourself rent. Well, let's call it $30 a square foot rent. Well, now you get to start paying yourself $10,000 to $12,000 a month just because now you're the landlord. So it's sweet. Okay, so now your dental practice is paying that's out, going to you now as the owner of this building. And what's amazing about that is, so now you're making income from the practice. And then because of that cost segregation depreciation, all this income that you make over here as a business real estate owner gets wiped out because of all the paper losses from the depreciation. And so those are like two massive benefits out of so many. I could go on. There's appreciation of the property. There's debt pay down. There's so many crazy cool benefits of owning real estate.
It's super important to remember too that you have to remember that what you're paying yourself or what you're paying on your note on your building, you've got to consider that income. I know that it can be demoralizing if you went from making one number and then you go buy this building and all of a sudden you make half of on paper, what you made the year prior. But you have to remember what you're paying, what you're paying on your note on your building. You've got to consider that income. I know that it can be demoralizing if you went from making one number and then you go buy this building and all of a sudden you make half of on paper what you made the year prior. But you have to remember what you're into that asset is income. You now own something that you didn't own. And so you have to remember that. But Matt, one thing I'd love for you to talk about is we had about a year and a half left on our lease. And it was like, man, I can't pass this building up, but I also still have this other rent payment that I've got to make. Can you talk a little bit about subleasing and what kind of structure we put together for that and kind of the ins and the outs? And I learned a lot about it, but if you can kind of share what subleasing is, what to look out for, what to know about it, all the things.
Yeah. So in today's world after COVID, when you think about the big office buildings that are out there, there's like 30% vacancy, like globally, like everywhere. There's just like gaping holes of vacancy everywhere. So that's a problem, but also it's an opportunity for tenants that want a good deal. So you, as a dental owner that has a lease in a building, you would think is, hey, that's a problem, especially if you have a couple years left and, call it a couple $100,000. I don't know how much it was, but there's outstanding obligations you got to pay. Well, the beautiful thing about being a dental owner with a lease is that despite 30% vacancy across the globe, how much of that is actual dental space? And when you think about dental space, most of this vacancy is like huge office, corporations that have 20,000 feet or 50,000 feet. Well, dentists only need, 1 to 5,000 square feet or something like that. So when you think about that, the pool gets really small. And I ended up running some stats when we first started this sublease process. And I was like, ooh, man, I'm kind of nervous about this. But I was like, you know what? Let me go see what other spaces out there that are for sublease, that are in that size range, that are more dental focused, that are already equipped, have all the plumbing and stuff in place. You were literally the only one. There was maybe one other, like within like a 15-mile radius. So the cool thing is that despite all these challenges, if someone wanted to dip their toe in as a dentist and like take on a short-term space and like try this thing out, you're the only option. So dentists kind of have double leverage. When you get into a building, you've got leverage as a tenant because there's so much vacancy. So you can negotiate a ton of concessions and flexibility. And then when you want out, you actually have an advantage to actually sublease it because there's not a lot of dentists out there that are trying to sublease. So I think dentists actually have a really great opportunity right now for maximum flexibility.
Yeah, and as you're building that space out, the landlords also know that because of the amount of infrastructure that you're putting into it, you've got to put all the plumbing and the water and the air and all that good stuff. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of use outside of another dentist going in there, and the most reliable rent ever is a dentist, right? Like you've sunk hundreds of thousands of dollars into infrastructure into this building, which made their building more valuable. So I think what I hear you saying is like knowing that on the back end, you've got some leverage, so you can say, "Hey, I'm gonna make your building more valuable. How can you help me?" Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and like it's kind of recession proof, right? Because we've talked about this. If like the world comes to an end or something gets bad, like people still need dental work, right? And so, despite the markets kind of going up and down, there's probably always going to be demand for someone that would like a 1 to 3,000 square foot or 1 to 5,000 square foot dental space. So as you're signing up for a lease term, 10 years is a long time, but go for it if you want to. 5 years, I think, is a great lease term for anyone to do anything because it's just enough time to maximize concessions with the landlord, but not, sticking your neck out there forever. And then if you need to exit out at year 4, there's still opportunity to maybe bring in another dentist for like a sublease at 50% maybe.
That's such a good point. Dental is one of the most protected industries when it comes to recessions. GP, there's been a ton of studies on this. It actually moved just a couple percentage point GP practices in downtime versus uptimes. Now it's not as true with like all the bigger stuff, veneers, aligners, and all those kind of things. So I learned something really good there. That is an amazing thought process because if you need to exit, you have something that there's going to be tons of people that want it.
Yep. And I want to make this very clear. I've been doing brokerage real estate for like 13 years. You as a dental owner, if you want to buy, you've got leverage. But if you want to lease, like you have enormous leverage and buying power right now. because office buildings are just like sucking wind with all this vacancy. 'Cause even though there's 30% vacancy on the books, you've all been into office spaces. The only people working today in an actual building are dentists. You go to like all these oil and gas companies, they're like, nobody's there. Like, I went to an office the other day, it's like 8,000 square feet. There's one person there. So these landlords know, like, hey, there's something not good going on here. And it's going to take a long time for that to come back. So you as a dentist owner, just remember you've got leverage. And so when you do a 5-year plus term, you can fight, reasonably for what you need and want because you've got leverage.
Yeah. So for all you dentists out there that are thinking about doing this on your own, I hope this provides all the information you need as to why having a great real estate teammate is helpful, because having someone like Matt on my team saved me infinitely more than what the fee or whatever I paid him to help me with that. So with that, Matt, I know commercial real estate is where your bread and butter is, but I think where your heart is actually on the residential side. I've had the honor of being able to kind of watch you grow this business. We call it Strike, STRIQ, but I personally have played around with it and I think it's phenomenal. And I think other dentists would be interested in hearing more about kind of what Strike does and why it might be of interest to someone like a dentist.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, man. And it's been fun having you as an advisor with me on that too. So again, I've been doing real estate for like 13 plus years, and I started going around my office saying, hey, we're brokering transactions for all these people. I was like, are you buying real estate? Are you, I was going around asking they're like, no. And I'm like, well, all these people are coming to us as the experts. Why are we not buying this real estate? And, I started thinking about it like, well, commercial real estate is like 4 or 5 million, whatever. It's pretty expensive. So there's a barrier to entry if you don't have the capital or if you can't go raise the money. So I was like, you know what? Reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, knowing I wanted to invest in assets, not liabilities. And I'm like, well, how can I get in the game? I was like, well, okay, this residential thing, I've heard about this Airbnb game that's kind of on the rise. I went to Fredericksburg, Texas, and I found a property. And I said, you know what? Again, I'm going to bet on myself, figure this thing out and see what happens. And I did. And I bought this property in Fredericksburg. It turned out to be a 60% cash on cash return. Interest rates were lower then, so that definitely helped. But that exposed my eyes to, oh my gosh, this new asset class where you can make enormous amounts of money. And best of all, you get cash flow, you get appreciation and debt payoff, so wealth building. You get tax benefits because of the bonus depreciation we just talked about. And then my favorite, you get to actually go use the property and enjoy it. So it's the best of all. It's literally the best asset class I've ever discovered because, Blake, you always talk about, go invest in T-bills and Bitcoin, which I do like Bitcoin.
Bitcoin and T-bills are on polar. This is now where we're about to shut this show down. You got to be, that's crazy.
I got them both. Okay.
I'm like, and I said, nah, man, I'm good on the stocks because you know what? I liquidated my 401k, liquidated my IRA, everything, which I wouldn't advise that to everyone. I'm a real estate agent. You guys are. But the reason why is because you can invest in all that stuff and literally just watch it go up and down on paper. But short-term rentals, you get to see it go up. You get the cash flow, you get the tax benefits, and you get to use it. Name one other thing out there that you get to invest in and make a ton of money and actually go enjoy it. Because Airbnb is only leased out 50, 60% of the time. It's like the greatest asset class of all time. So circling back to Strike, the reason I'm so convicted in it is because I discovered what I think is gold, amazing investment class. And I know you guys and other dentists out there man, I would love to go invest in that. But there's 3 things holding you back. There's time, knowledge, and capital. And so you may not have the time, you're too busy. You may just think, hey, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I don't know Airbnb. I don't know where to invest, what markets, what type of property. I may not have the capital. And so Strike was birthed with this idea of, hey, I'm solving this problem for myself and I want to help other people do it. So I had this idea, wrote it on a napkin, and it literally looks just like Zillow, but you put in a filter and you click 2 or 3 buttons and boom, profitable properties are literally represented all over the country that are already underwritten for you that you can literally go buy today. And that's the power of what we're doing with Strike is we're doing all the hard work for you. So the time problem solved. We're helping you with the knowledge part because we're underwriting the entire thing, showing you exactly what the expenses and revenue looks like and financing. And then all you have to do is find the property and find the capital and go do it. And so I've personally already bought 2 properties for this. I've got a guy that just got off the phone with, he's about to buy a property in Dripping Springs that's going to make $400,000 in revenue, a 20% cash on cash return, make $10,000 a month in net cash flow. And he's going to save $300,000 to $500,000 in taxes because he's going to go buy a sick Dripping Springs property, turning it into an Airbnb and get a refund for the government from $300,000 or more. Like, that's the power that you guys can unlock. And who knows, maybe it's on a beach where, now you can keep running your property or your business. And then now in the summers or the winters, you can go out with your family and go enjoy your beach property.
That is so cool. That is awesome. That's really cool. I'm going to check that out. And I know you gave a discount down below. So you guys go check that out right down in the bottom of the show notes. Now, if someone says, hey, I want to get a hold of you, Matt, and I want help finding the right building or even figuring out, does this make sense for me to go and own now? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at matt.sanderson@striq.com, or you can go to our website, www.striq.com. Reach out to me. That's what I'm doing with Strike. Obviously, I'm doing commercial real estate as well with a group called Titan Commercial. But you could reach out to me on that Strike email. And I recently just started a community called Freedom Investor Academy. And the reason it's freedom is because me personally, I want financial freedom and I want freedom to go do stuff with my family, right? And many of you do too, Blake. We just want more time. Like, that's at the end of the day, why are dentists doing this? Yeah, you want to make money, but you kind of want more time to go do the stuff you like, golf, whatever. And so I started this community so that, I've figured out how I can stair step into that freedom that I'm trying to achieve. And I want to help other people do it. But the key and the caveat is going down that path. I realize, and this is more of a spiritual conversation now, but I was very convicted that if I only help people achieve financial freedom, but don't teach them about true freedom through Jesus Christ, then I've royally missed the mark. So this community is a faith-based community that's focused on real estate with the 2 goals of achieving financial freedom, but more importantly, spiritual freedom. So if you want to be a part of that, it's free, it's public community. I try to add a lot of value and would love for you to be a part of it.
That's awesome. I wasn't expecting that. How do they find the group?
It's on Skool, SKOOL, and it's called Freedom Investor Academy. And it's a public community. It doesn't cost anything. And you can sign up today.
That's awesome. So all this is down in the show notes below. And as always, reach out to Dr. Blake, reach out to myself. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or pretty much anywhere. And just ask, say, hey, was it worth it? What would you have done differently? So we're trying to be transparent as possible. And we love your questions. You guys have had amazing questions that have helped us develop the show, and we want to make it better for you. So let us know the things that you want to know about, and we will get the experts like Matt on. And Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. Great episode, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the whole podcast. You're truly one of our greatest fans, and we really appreciate you. And we want to give you a $3,000 marketing credit to be used to grow your office. We have the link right down below. We'll meet really quickly. It takes about 15 minutes, and we'll tell you how you can save $3,000 on growing your office. And if you're an existing client, let us know, because this is for new clients, but we have some giveaways for existing clients as well. And it's great. So you'll love it. Thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate you.